Hello, everybody. We've got a new show from Felon to Fabulous coming on board. So, the things we've been showing you is just kind of blurbs of what to expect with some of our people. You'll be able to find those shows over at fromfelontofabulous.com very soon. But I want you to hear this next story because Omar Howard, he's got a miracle going on for the things that's happened in his life. This guy was supposed to do so much time, and by the grace of God, he's living a changed life. So there's a stereotype, there's a stigma that goes with people that are felons, and the bottom line is we just made mistakes and made bad choices, which a lot of people do that just don't get caught. And then there's some that are really bad people who didn't learn from their mistakes that go in and out, and are continuously doing harm. Our stories are about the people who are making a difference, who have really changed their life, because change is possible if somebody wants it, and it can be real. So don't judge somebody because they are trying to make a difference. Instead, applaud them because they're using their past to propel them forward so that they don't make those mistakes again and can help others to either overcome what's going on or to help them see that they still have a value and a worth. So I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Hey, it is an unstoppable day. Welcome to another episode of From Felons to Fabulous, the show where we help you understand that no matter where you started, it's not where you start, it's how you finish. You too can go from being in a life of incarceration to a life of elevation. I'm one of your hosts, Terrence, the Unstoppable Coach Leffridge with Unstoppable Coaching Services. I'm one of the coaches here with Felons to Fabulous, and we're going to bring up our co-host. We have the professor of change and the curator of Felons to Fabulous, Brenda Ringwood, and we've got the phenomenal co-host herself of BTBY and a speaker with Activate Your Power. We've got Isabel Black. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Wonderful.
Hello, doing well.
Well, welcome again. I'm excited for another episode of From Felons to Fabulous. You know, it's not about the journey, it's about the mindset. And each and every week, we're going to bring you guests from both sides of the spear as we're talking about ex-cons, felons, the penal system, the whole criminal justice system, the civil system, whatever likes that incarceration takes, we're going to take you on that journey with some exciting people who have overcome some things, and they want to share how they've done it so that you'll recognize that if they can do it, then you can do it too. Brenda, tell me, how do you feel about having this platform and what it's going to do for the people that not only are on the show, but the people that are going to be blessed by watching the show?
Well, first off, we need to change the stereotype of the word ex con and of the word felon because we're just people. We're just people like everybody else. We have the right to have a happy life. We've already done our time, and it's time to step out and be heard. We have a voice. We don't need to be pushed in a corner. So that's what I'm
Absolutely.
excited about.
I love it, letting you know that we are all people. I tell people that there's very little difference between where you are and where I am. It's just which side of the proverbial desk you find
Mhm.
yourself sitting on. And Izzy, we love to call you Izzy. You have been on both sides of the coin. So how does this show really resonate with you in the possibilities that it's going to create in the universe?
Right. And as a healer to humanity, I like to say that I do my part in healing humanity by first healing self. Now, I could have been um, a great uh, criminal, and I probably would have honestly been a great prisoner because I was raised with a criminal mindset. And the majority of my father's in prison. My brother has been in and out of prison. My daughter's biological baby father is serving a life sentence. My son's father served a couple times in prison. Everyone in my world has gone through the system, and I went through the juvenile system as a juvenile. So I was groomed very early and was, taught how to be resilient in that lifestyle. So to back up what Bryn said on change the stereotype, what I would like to do as my part here is to help the actual people that are going through it change that stereotype within themselves.
Yes.
Because that's what I see from the people I love. And from when I was a corrections officer, is you have to convince them first that they are worth it, because most of them have already deemed themselves damaged goods in life.
Right.
Yes.
So what's the point? That's what they think. What's the point?
Absolutely. And that's why we talk about it's about the mindset, because wherever you find yourself in life, your mind got there first. And so we're not only changing the narrative, we're changing the conversation to help you change your mindset so that you can move from being a felon to being fabulous. And we've got a great guest tonight that's going to help you in that change, in that new trajectory towards becoming fabulous, because he's done it himself. Hey, Brenda, why don't you go ahead and introduce who our special guest is this evening?
I absolutely think his story is amazing. I had the chance to meet him about 2 years ago during COVID, was doing some prison reform shows, just some educational shows, and I got to hear his story and what he's done even since then. Just these past 2 years has just been phenomenal. He is fabulous. So this is Omar Howard. He has done multiple years in prison, and he got something that is very rare. And I'm going to let him tell that story. Welcome, Omar.
Hey.
Welcome to the From Felon to Fabulous show. And let us not be remiss, because, I know you earned it. And in the title going across the screen, it says Dr. Omar Howard. So how are you, sir?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. I think anytime you can be on this side of the earth and on the grounds,
yes,
this is what we went through in the last 2 years. And the things that we're seeing in our community, in our society right now, like every day that we wake up is a great opportunity to either do something different in your life, do better, evolve, build, so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunities that they've been giving me. And so I'm just grateful every day to have a chance to continue to build on that legacy, to build on what I'm doing. So I am doing great, coach. Great.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to be here. Here at Felons, from Felons to Fabulous, we know that just mere words on the paper will not do justice to people's biography. So let's give you an opportunity to tell our audience who you are. And then there's this moniker that you're carrying that's called a pardon receiver. Let's hear a little bit more about that. So the floor is yours.
All right. Well, let me introduce myself once again to the greater audience. My name is Omar Howard. I'm originally from Auburn, Alabama. And I moved up here about when I was 9 years old. And the reason my mom moved me up here was because I can't see anything. Can y'all?
We see you just fine.
You're good. We can edit. So
it's a dark screen.
You can't even see yourself?
You're full screen. That's why.
Oh, am I full screen? Okay.
Yeah, we got you full screen.
Oh, okay. I see everything now. Okay. I'm sorry, but I came from Auburn, Alabama, and I grew up very poor. Like my family was dirt road poor. If you ever lived in the country, you know what a dirt road is. We lived on a dirt road. We had my granddad used to garden in, this dirt, Alabama dirt. When I tell people about poverty, like I know what poverty is. Our extended family was roaches and rats. I'm telling you, we lived that with, and it was a norm for us. Like you leave your food, run to the bathroom, wash your hand, come back. Like
it's gone.
There's a whole nother family there. You just, hey,
Yeah.
break it up,
Yeah.
break it up, get out of here. Right? So, you know, you had to share space with that type of situation. And when I was young, I didn't even know that we was poor. Because nobody really talked about it. Because other people around you was just as poor. And I didn't understand it until shortly after, probably like 6 or 7 years old, when we had a family. They had a kids touring everybody's house, and I was like the last house of the tour, and all the kids like booed me. Oh, you know. And for the first time in my life, I realized we were poor. And I remember having a discussion with my grandmother, and I'm just like, Grandma, when I get older, I'm gonna do something with my life. I'm going to get rich, and I'm gonna take care of you. That was my goal. But I went through a lot in that short period of time while I was in Alabama, for us watching my aunts and uncles and cousins do drugs, alcohol, and bring me into a life of stealing and lying and all type of craziness. So I watched it for a large part of my life for us from that time that I could understand. But I also dealt with a friend of the family trying to molest me while I was young. Like I went through that whole psychological part of it. And then I actually I think I blocked it out for like years. I didn't even think about it. Thank God he didn't go for us. He was trying to go, but he did do things that was uncomfortable, touching me and stuff like that. So I didn't realize down the line that was going to affect me, because, you know, you have to learn how to forgive and move on, or, you know, deal with it and move on, because you draw up a lot of bitterness behind it. But my mother ended up moving up to Georgia, to Atlanta, because she wanted a better life, and she wanted to provide a better life for me. And I got up here, and first several years I did great in school, new life, new pressure, new peer pressure. And so, you know, I'm doing well all the way through 8th grade. Now, mind you, I told you about my family. I didn't tell you about my father because I didn't know my father at the time. My mother didn't have a clue what my father was, and whatever their situation was, I don't know. But I always knew about him. I know that he went to Auburn University, and I knew he was a star point guard at the time. And he's out of Tuskegee at the time. And so I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to be a basketball player. And I guess it was just in my genes to play. So as I got into 7th and 8th grade, I was playing basketball, and I was getting better and better. But going into the 9th grade, that summer of 9th grade, I got distracted with some other opportunities. If anybody know about the late 80s, when the drug life was just really hitting in the 80s, I got attached to it and got introduced to it. And, you know, my 9th grade year, I started trying to sell drugs. Now, I definitely wasn't a good drug seller. It was just me. I thought it was just a cool thing to do, get money, get the jury. You know, I was caught up in that part of the life. I didn't realize that decision was going to eventually have me doing a downward spiral. So eventually, one thing led to another. Now, I remember 8th grade, I'm telling you, I was an A and B student. By second semester of 9th grade, I was failing all my classes. I was getting ready to drop out. I was dropping out of school because I wanted money. And now, you know, I'm tasting this street life, and for some reason that I still can't figure out, it tasted good for the moment. And I'm like, you know, I like the little toughness, and, you know, doing all the crazy stuff, sneaking out the house, cussing the police, everything that comes with being in the street. Like, I was enjoying it because it was a way for me. My mother was real strict. My mother was a do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Do as I say, period. Right?
Heard that many times before.
Oh, yeah. See, my grandma was about switches, right?
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in that era.
Right.
My mother was about belts and a hand. And I think I would have rather took the switches than the belt and the hand. And my mother, I think she created cursing. Well, she created some cursing, right?
Yeah.
She's supposed to listen to mama.
She made sure I listened. My mother had one of those, you could play tough, but she could look at you and it's like, all right. And even though I was getting taller, like, I still didn't really play with my mom. But I grew up not being a disrespectful to my parents. You know, I just didn't. I thank God for my grandmother who taught me to be respectful. But anybody know, when you start gravitating to that street life,
yeah,
you start embracing a lot of different type of lifestyles, funny lifestyles that don't go along with the culture that you was raised. And I grew up in that culture where you did what your elders say, you did what your parents say, you respect your parents. You know, honor thy mother, thy father, so your days may be long type of, preaching when it went to you. So I did kind of, believe in that. But then, once I started getting in them streets, and I'm taller than my mom, and my mom's 4'12", or my mother's not even 5 feet, I don't think. And I'm taller than her. Now I'm slim though, but I'm taller than her, so whoopings don't hurt no more, right? So
you're feeling it, and you were feeling yourself, right?
I'm feeling myself, Coach.
Okay.
I'm feeling myself. Now I didn't grow up no tough kid, even though I grew up bad and disrespectful. I mean, stealing and all that. But once I started gravitating the streets, now I'm starting to want to take on this other role. I want to be this tough guy. I want to be this dude. Then, one thing led to another. I went to selling drugs, then breaking the car, breaking the houses, dropping out of school, fighting, going to clubs, fighting, drinking, trying to smoke a little bit here and there. And eventually I picked up a gun. And I'm robbing now. I'm kicking in doors. Now, this is from 15, 16, 17, 18. But 15, I caught my first robbery charge in a group of guys. And, we do what everybody do. Just want to get out of jail. Want to get out. 2 weeks later, back at it again. So my first charge was a robbery charge at 15. Next charge was a terrorist threat charge, tried to fight the police. Next charge was I think I had a gun charge, and then had several other charges in between 15 and 18 years old. Now, in between that, I'm depressed. I'm stressed out. I don't know if I'm coming or going. Me and my mother not on good terms. My mother to a place where, like, you got to make your own decisions. I love you, but you got to figure this thing out too. I got, at 17, I got a child on the way and another one on the way, and I'm just all over the place, just super depressed. But when my first son was born, it hit me hard. And I was just like, this may be my way out of the streets, because I didn't want to have the same impact in my son's life the way the absence of my father impacted my life, because I really wanted a father. I really wanted a brother and sister, but I was the only child of my mom. And so I'll never forget holding my older son for the first time. And I just broke down crying. I was like, man, I got somebody that I think love me. Somebody I can love now, because I didn't understand love. I didn't know what love was. And I got out the streets, went back to school. And I always remember my principal saying, this is a good year. Omar's not even getting in no trouble. Because I was I was just into stuff, bad, disrespectful, talking back, always getting kicked out of class, just in the little fights here and there, just doing a lot of crazy stuff. But it felt good to hear something positive for the first time in years. And I worked hard trying to get my school stuff back, because I'm like, I'm gonna graduate. I'm a year behind, but I'm gonna graduate. I'm gonna get this thing right. And I ended up getting my first job, McDonald's. And you'd have thought I had got a job at Microsoft. I $6 an hour. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm out the streets now. And this went well for about for a few months, but the money didn't add up to what those Pampers and that Infamil, that didn't add up. And man, I got back into them streets, and that was the worst decision I ever made. My son's mother wasn't on good terms. She was in the process of having a second baby, and I had another girl that was potentially had a pregnant. Like, I was just all over the place, stressed out, lost. I didn't know if I was coming or going. I got to a place right there in that moment of life where if I died, it didn't matter. If I killed somebody, it didn't matter. Like, I just didn't care about anything but getting money, because I'm depressed now. Like, I'm going through a lot. I tried to work with my stepdad doing construction, but I didn't want to get up early in the morning. Like, it just lost. And then my son's mother, because she ended up moving with me and my mom. And so we, just things just didn't go well. I mean, become very abusive to her. Just like I said, just doing a lot of crazy stuff. She ended up leaving to get away from me, and baby and all that. So I'm lost. And I turned 18, and then I turned 18 in November 1992, 93. I found myself February 5th, 1993, charged with 13 major felons. I was charged with murder, felony murder, 3 counts on robbery, 3 counts of false imprisonment, 3 counts of aggravated assault, burglary, and carrying a concealed weapon. 18 years old. And I never forget the first day those doors slammed behind my back. I realized then, like, this is not the life that I want to live. This is not who. It's like when that door slammed and I heard that clink. If anybody ever been locked up before and you heard that clink, that's a different type of noise. That's a different sound. And
that's a different type of door.
Oh yeah, that's a different door. And not that I hadn't been locked up before, but this one here was different. That door slam now was different. And I couldn't believe at that moment in my life when they was reading those charges. All I remember saying is like, how the hell I got myself in this situation? Where did I go wrong? How did I go from wanting to go to college, play basketball, and have a great life to now I'm sitting behind some locked doors, 18 years old, facing the worst charge you can have in the state of Georgia. And no money to fight, no money to get a lawyer. And one of the things that hit me harder than I'll never forget was, I've been there a couple of weeks at the time. And I remember I was walking down, I think we was going either to go eat or go to the gym or something. I never hear somebody was hollering out the door, like, hey, young buck, hey, young man, hey. I'm looking around, yeah, you. Man, what you doing locked up, man? You supposed to be in school somewhere, man. What are you doing? And man, when I tell you my inside, like it melted, like it fell apart because I knew then, like, I'm gone. And I never get calling my mom and telling her, Mom, I'm not getting out this time. I've messed up. I really have messed up. And my mom just falling apart. Like, and I never get my son mother pop. I haven't seen her like at a time like 2 or 3 months because she had left. And she popped up there. And I was able to get my first visit. And I never get watching, looking in her eyes, and she's saying, man, you left me out here to raise these kids by myself. I was just tormented. That was a tormented voice to hear that. My mom crying, she's saying this, and everything in my life just coming at me. Like all this was just going on. And at one point I thought about suicide. Like I really like, you know what, I'm not gonna do all this time, man. You folks think you had this. I couldn't muster up the strength to do that. Thank God.
Yeah, thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God for that. Thank God, you know, He gave me a strong enough will to not want to do that and just deal with whatever I had to deal with. I never get just going to church, you know, you get locked up. You're trying to find God. You're trying to figure this thing out. For the first time in my life, God, you got to be real because this ain't real. This is like a fantasy world. Like I'm just hoping I wake up like, oh, it's got to be a dream because this can't be happening. I'm charged with the worst.
And then when you wake up, you're still there.
But I'm still there. Like when I go to sleep, I was waking up hoping like, oh, it was just a dream, and it wasn't a dream.
And I think it's important to put this in perspective because if we go back over the life story that you just shared with us, by the time you were 18, you went between the ages of 12 and 18, you went from being a AB student on a basketball career to being charged with almost as many felonies as you had years on this earth. Yes. That's a third of your life went into a spiral, and you found yourself with that sound of the doors closing. That sounds so completely different. And then it even gets worse because now you have this inner turmoil that you're dealing with because now people are looking at you and saying you shouldn't be here. Your baby mama's saying to you, you shouldn't be here. Your mama is tore up, and now you know that you shouldn't be here, but you're there. And there's nothing at that time you could do about that. How did those days? How did you deal with those days of knowing that you had put yourself there, and it seemed like at that point there was nothing you could do about it?
Well, here's a challenge, Doc. Part of my story is this wasn't even my murder charge. It was a robbery that went wrong, and I wasn't even standing close to the house.
Okay.
I didn't even want to be there that night. You know, you get those gut feeling like, man, I don't think we need to do it.
This ain't where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, I shouldn't be here tonight. Like, I don't want to do this. too much, something, the energy is not right. I felt it. And I was just like encouraged, like, come on, just stand up there. You ain't got to do nothing. I'm going in. I'm do. So it was another girl, it was a female and a guy, and me, and then some other guys. The older guys sat kind of down a little bit from me. And I'm just really sitting there, like, I'm just like, go on, get this over with, man. Let's go, man. Like, I don't even want to go in, man. Like, if we get some money, we get it. Y'all do whatever we want. I don't even want to be here. That's just, I had that type of feeling. Mm-hmm. And it happened so fast. Like, what just happened? Like, you know, I heard a gunshot, but I thought somebody was shooting out the house. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And to see a body, you know, we run. So now I'm in here trying to contact people. Like, yo, man, I'm already facing these armed robberies, yo, man. Like, yo, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I had a co-defendant, at the time, he wrote a statement on me, one of them, a couple of them that didn't get locked up. So, and I wasn't necessarily mad about that. You know what I'm saying? I just couldn't understand, like, why is everything falling on my head? Like what's going on? Like, and I'm trying to call in the situation, the people that done it. He's like my best friends. Like, yo, now everybody like going against me, hanging up the phone, don't want to talk. And I'm like, yo, you just shut up in there. Don't say, like, hold up, man. Listen, like, what? Yo, I ain't said that. What do you do? What's going on? So I'm dealing with my mother, like, yo, don't you realize they don't care nothing about you? You better stop trying to hold the code of the street. And I'm like, Mom, these my friend. They ain't gonna let me go down. And it's time going by, days, weeks, months going by. Court dates coming by. Now they like, yo, we trying to offer you a life sentence. I'm like, offer me a life sentence for what? I ain't shot nobody. Well, you need to tell. I'm like, man, I ain't did nothing. They didn't. So one of the guys was actually locked up on the charge who actually did it. Somehow they dropped the charges on him all the way around. So now I'm facing this murder charge by myself. The robbery. Okay, granted, I did it. I can't even be mad about that. But now I'm fighting something else. Now I don't understand what's going on because I'm really trying to like believe that my friend is not understanding life at the time either. Because when I reverse that role years later, what I've told on myself, probably not. I ain't that much friends with nobody right now. I don't think I'm gonna be quiet, maybe to go away, because that's how we thinking. So at this time now, I'm trying to get involved with church. I'm going to Bible study. Like, I'm trying to understand it. I'm reading the Bible. I always laugh about it. I'm reading the story, God delivering people. I'm like, well, God, listen, I'm gonna get saved. You just get the murder charge stuff. I'm gonna do right. Now I'm trying to really trick God because I'm really in conversations.
He becomes the genie in the bottle at that time. I've had those conversations with them myself.
Yeah, and then I'm like having conversation with other guys about, man, if I get out of here and come here, I'm gonna go back there. I'm gonna sell some dope. I'm gonna put that pistol on somebody if I catch him slip. I ain't gonna just be out here rob, but if I catch him slip. So I'm still trying to play games. I thank God.
Still riding the fence. He's still living. Both lives are still competing with you.
Yeah, if I can trick God and gonna let me go, maybe He ain't gonna hold it against me when I get out. That's how I'm looking at it. But
I love how you said that because it sounds like you went from selling drugs to now trying to sell yourself to God. Now that you got caught. Now that you get caught. But in either way, you were being a salesman. And sometimes in life, the things that catch us up aren't the things that we thought should have caught us up.
Exactly.
Sometimes, we used to say back in the day that your nickel slick. Sometimes you just, that thing that you should have got caught for, you didn't. So now you feel like, hey, nothing can touch me. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where by your own admission, you were feeling like this wasn't right. I shouldn't be here, but you were there anyway.
I'm there.
And that's the thing that gets you tripped up. So
and that's the challenge. Like I said, I'm fighting my loyalty to my friends compared to the people that actually love me, my mom and my kids. And I was really between the rock and a hard place. I was really between Stone Mountain and the grass, and it wasn't a good look. And so they ended up dropping the murder down to a manslaughter charge, gave me a plea of 18 years. They ran all my charges concurrent. So I got blessed in the process because really they probably should gave me a life sentence for all those charges. So I ended up getting an 18-year sentence altogether. They ran everything concurrent, gave me one sentence, 18 years, and I accepted that. And I tell you, that was a tough decision to make.
Mhm.
When I had to turn around at that podium and look at my mom now, look at my son, look over at the victim family. I'm signing my name over on something that I didn't even do on a murder charge. Armed robbery, grant, I accept that. But when I had to write my name on the line to accept a charge that I didn't do because I'm trying to keep it real and I'm trying to be loyal to friends in the streets and not loyal to the people that's in the behind me that love me, that was a tough place for me to be at. And so I ended up signing, got 18 years, and then I ended up getting transferred to one of the worst prisons. Right, and if you stayed in Georgia, people know there was a prison called Alto, or Lee Averdale State Prison, nicknamed Alto. And it was like, for a young man at that time in your life, that was like one of the worst places you can go to, especially if you had good hair. You weigh about 170 pounds, 60 pounds. That just wasn't, it wasn't the best place for, a brother to be going to, unless you were like some type of, you suicide killer or something. I'm like, I'll fight, but I ain't like, I'm not like out here I ain't Mike Tyson. I ain't Roy Jones or none of that, So I ended up going to this facility and I just remember praying that prayer, God, I don't know what's going to happen here, but God protect me. You know what I'm saying? I remember calling my mom, just like, Mom, there's a lot going on in this place. So, the wrong thing happened. I'm not coming home. I'm gonna be trying to, I'm gonna really be trying to kill somebody. Because that camp was infamous for raping and stabbing fights. That's what it was infamous for. That place was known. That place had a dark cloud over it. And I got there, and I'm just really trying to mind my own business, and I didn't see what God was setting up for me to do. I didn't see this coming. So I really got heavily involved in chaplaincy, got on the choir. And when I tell y'all, you hear from my mouth, and from if I had 10 of my friends from prison come there tell you the same story, man, I watched God really start developing me as a person and as a beacon of light in a leadership role. So as I got involved in chaplaincy, the more I had started getting a good name amongst staff and amongst guys inside the institutions.
You started having a great reputation.
Had a great reputation. And then shortly after, a couple years after I got there, they ended up bringing juveniles here. And this is how my life really started shaping up. They passed a law in the state of Georgia. They started bringing these kids from the 440 bill and started putting them in the state prisons along with adults. So they asked me to start being partaker of a mentoring program. They started there. So they started this mentoring program. And then they started bringing high schools there, which they started a kind of a scared straight type program. And out of the blue, they asked me like, yo, will you come speak to our kids? And I spoke one time. They was like, yo, we love you. You got to come here every time. Like, so it was crazy. I didn't see what God was setting up at the time. And so my reputation started building inside the institution. So, I'm leading Bible studies now. I'm leading certain groups. I'm being called to do all type of different things. And so I end up being 8.5 years there. Then I get transferred from a maximum security to a medium security facility. Did 2.5 years, the same reputation building up, and then eventually I get transferred to, and I want y'all to remember what I'm telling you, I got transferred to what is called the Atlanta Transit Center, which is a word release program to get ready to go out. But they have two sides to it. One part is called long-term maintenance, one part is called word release. Long-term maintenance, you're still doing time, but you wear regular clothes. Mm-hmm. You're doing state detail jobs. And you'd be surprised. I don't even know if they even know this, but some of the guys actually work at the governor mansion. Crazy, right? Yeah. And you have to have a life sentence, or I didn't have a life sentence. So I'm working inside the institution, and then I got denied parole after a year being there. I thought I was getting ready to go home. I got denied for 2.5 years, and of course, I've been at the time I had been locked up 11 years, going on 12 years, and I was tormented. But after that denial is when God really showed His hand. There was a phone call came in shortly about 6 months after I got my denial, and one of the judges out in Clayton County, which was part of Metro Atlanta, heard about me through somebody that got out of prison. Like, you need to try to get this guy out. You need to let him talk to these kids out here. So they reached out to the warden approved it, and my life shot out from there. Like, now they got me traveling up down the state of Georgia where I was incarcerated speaking in schools and churches and youth events that had us in the newspaper. Then they implemented our choir into it. So now we have a youth choir program that we're going around and we're singing, you know, we're writing our own music, raps, everything. And like we getting like state attention, like newspaper. Now we're doing stuff for the parole board and Department of Corrections. And I was the main speaker of it. So these things went very well for me for 2.5 years. And eventually, December 10th, 2007, I got my release paper to get out of prison after serving right at 15 years in prison. And I won't get to the whole drawn out story. I would encourage everybody to go get my book, which is called Omar Haward Story. You can definitely read more in depth of my life story. But I get out 2007, and listen, you would think that should have been the best day of my life, and it was almost one of the worst days of my life getting out of prison. And I'm gonna be, if I don't mind, I'm gonna be blunt about it. So
we want you to be, because people need to understand the phases that a person goes through.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. It should be the happiest day of your life.
It should have been. And so I get out December 10th. Now, a couple months before that, I found out that the state of Georgia passed a new law. If you had a false imprisonment charge and a minor was in the house, no sexual contact, nothing. If you rob in a house and there's a minor in the house, which is called false imprisonment, not kidnapping, but if kidnapping too, mine was just a false imprisonment charge. So if you don't know what a false imprisonment charge is, if I tell y'all, don't move, you don't move, that's a false imprisonment charge. If you move and say Georgia, I think 6 feet, it becomes a kidnapping charge. So if I move them across the room, it becomes kidnapping. But because they didn't move, it's a false imprisonment charge. But there was a 16 or 17-year-old kid in the house. I think 16. I don't know. I didn't come in the house and ask what no age was when I robbed. We just robbed the house.
Right.
Georgia passed a law, and because of this law, they made me register as a sex offender when I got out of prison. You know, I was.
No, it had nothing to do with that.
Yo, I don't. You know, like I don't have a sex offense charge. Why am I registering as a sex offender? Mm-hmm. And at that time, Georgia was in this. The states were heavy about sex offenders. That was like the political push at the time, you know. And so I got out I get out around 10 o'clock. About 2 o'clock, I'm going around getting stuff for my condo because I'm renting a condo. And mind you, I had saved up about $12,000. I had been working like 6 months saved up. I'm excited. I'm ready to get out. Even though I had to deal with this, I was cool with it because I know I ain't did nothing. Mm-hmm. And I go to the parole officer. The parole officer told me to come to the office immediately. I come there, and this parole officer told me, you can't move into the condo. You got 15 minutes to find you a place to live, or I'm sending you back to prison. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at this guy and telling him, I said, sir, I've been gone 15 years. There's no way I'm going to find a place to live in 15 minutes.
Right.
I don't even know how Atlanta look anymore.
Yeah, things had changed so much.
And I don't know, we got modern technology. I don't know nothing about this. Modern technology wasn't like it was, you know, when I got locked up.
Yeah.
He basically told me to my face, that's not my problem. Mm. But because he waited so long, 15 minutes, they was getting ready to get off work. Thank God I didn't go in first when I first got out. I'm glad I waited. And then when he called me to come in, you know, he couldn't file a warrant on me to lock me up. So he had to wait till the next day. He told me to be in that morning. And so he didn't tell me, he just said be in that morning. But he said at that night, he said, you can't go to your mom's house because your mom stay too close to a school. Mm. Can't rent certain hotel because they're too close to a mall. So I had to go rent this hotel downtown Atlanta that's really around nothing, which is a cockroach hotel. I mean, it's, you know, the trap was there, the pimping there, like, and I was standing in that bed that night, and I just cried, man, because I was like, God, this ain't how this supposed to be. You know,
you thought you were coming out of prison, not to go in another one.
I'm like, this supposed to be a happy day of my life. My mom like having a nervous breakdown, and a friend of mine, she came up there, and I was laying in bed. I was just curled up, and she just laid there, and she just grabbed me because I couldn't stop crying. I just couldn't believe that I'm going through this. Like this can't be real. And so the next day I get in there, and they told me you got until like 4 o'clock. They closed it for you. You got to 4 o'clock, find your place to live, or we're gonna send you back to prison. We're gonna send you back to jail. Send you back to jail until you find a place to live. People don't know it is extremely hard to try to find a place to live, much less have a sex offense charge over you.
Absolutely.
I don't
It's
have to
extremely hard to find a place when you're not locked up, when you have the freedom to go around and look.
Right.
But now to have that added stress of being locked back up and
Yeah.
until you can find a place. So even
That's
though
right.
you now had your physical freedom, did you still feel like you were being treated like a prisoner?
I don't at that time. I don't know what I felt. I don't know. I don't know where my mind was at that time. That 24-hour being free, I don't know where my mind was at. I could not believe in a million years. I've already had to take on a murder charge that wasn't mine. I did 15 years in prison. I lost a lot of my relatives and stuff, before I got out. And now y'all got me registered as a sex offender, and I don't even have a sex offense charge. Man, I couldn't even fathom in my mind.
Which makes it almost impossible to find a place to live.
Yeah, because the politics of it right then was unbelievable.
Yep.
Oh,
or you have to go to a place that's already full of sex offenders because that's the only place they have to go. So you're right back in the same environment that you just came out of.
And at that time, you really have. They had people staying up on the bridges, or like moving way out down south in wooded areas. You had to move away from everybody. Like it was crazy, the stories I heard. And so the next day, right at about 3:30, a lady that I worked for and was close with, she had a ministry of heartbound men. She found this rooming house that was kind of a drug-based real house. She said, call them. They may have an opportunity. I called him, told him, look, I came in for an interview about 3:45. He accepted me. I told him straight up, like, listen, I don't have no drug problem. I just can't stay close to a school or a playground and like that, but I can pay my rent. And he was like, well, I'll accept you, man. Let's give it a try. And they accepted it. And I went from supposedly staying in a condo to staying in a rooming house less than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable way of thinking. Story gets even tricky. So I get there, pay my down payment rent, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, get to Friday. Parole officer. I thank God for my parole officer. She was a great person. She called me that day after I got her because I worked third shift. She called me and said, Omar, I'm going to give you extra time this weekend. Monday, you got to find another place to live because you're too close to a park. I was 15 feet away from a park. I could not believe what she said. I was like, she said, no, I've checked it out. I can't even believe he's telling me to tell you this. She said, but you got the money to find you another place to live. I was lost.
And you've already given a deposit.
Yeah, I'm like, I couldn't believe it. So Friday, Saturday morning, Saturday night I go to work. Sunday night I go to work, and I get up that morning. I couldn't find a place to live. I'll never forget, though, and I'm telling you all this for reasons. That night, I never forget, I had already settled in my mind that I'm going to go back to jail. I can't find a place. And I remember I'm working in a factory type thing, real noise. But for a moment, I couldn't hear anything. And I heard a voice as clear as day say, oh, ye
of little faith.
Yes, said, where's it that thou doubtest in me? Right? And it gave me peace. Like, okay, whatever, God, I trust you. I've been working with you all these years. I gotta trust you. If I gotta go back to jail for a minute, something greater gotta come out of it. So my mom picked me up that morning. I said, Mom, listen, whatever happens, happen. Let's just make it happen. Whatever. Just look for me a place to live. I'm ready to go back to jail. It is what it is. Because I heard that voice and I said, I got to believe God. I can't play up with God and not believe what He say. I get to the parole officer when I'm the first person there. Just got off work. I'm not even tired. I'm just ready to whatever happens. And the parole officer came out. He said, hey, come to my office for a minute. And he sat down. He sat across the table. He said, hey, who told you you were going back to prison? Now, I ain't never talked to him. I talked to the assistant and parole. I said, well, my parole officer called me Friday and told me I got to find a place to live by Monday. And I ain't had no luck. He said, I got a strange phone call this morning. Now, that's about 8 o'clock. So he got a phone call like 7 that morning.
Early.
Okay.
Before he gets to work. He said, the head of the parole board called and told me what was going on with you and told me we made a mistake of letting you out and not checking the addresses. We got to fix it. He said, man, he got up, shook my hand. He said, young man, congratulations that you're out. Stay out, enjoy your life. Move on with your life. So to go back out there and tell my mom that, like, it was just a overwhelming of relief because I can now hopefully move on with my life.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the best days of my life.
Yeah.
Fast forward 2 years later, the Southern Center of Human Rights was fighting our case and we was going to federal court. 2009, I got released from the sex offense registration list. I got overturned. I never remember just rolling out the bed because I supposed to went to court December 4th. December 3rd, my lawyer called and said, listen, you ain't even got to go to court if our judge already signed off on it. I just remember I just rolled out the bed. I just fell on the bed off onto the ground. Boy, I was so excited, like, man, this thing is off my back. Like, I ain't got to hide no more because they actually posted my picture on news one time.
Oh, yeah, they will.
Yeah.
Well,
the registries.
Well, the thing was, I was a poster boy for the case.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the positive stuff I was doing in the community, they were like, he doesn't even have a sex offense charge. Why is he going through this? So this was the fight. So I had to deal with it. And so you can imagine the phone calls I'm getting because I was kind of a known person. So you got to imagine the phone calls I got to explain to people like what's going on. Now everybody like, oh my God, I didn't know you was going through. Now again, I just got back to school because I got laid off my job. But here's where my life also changed. I got a phone call. I told you I went to the Atlanta Transition Center for 4 years. I get a phone call from a lady named Andrea Sheldon. And she said, how would you like to go back inside the prison system as a chaplain? I sat back and like, I don't know about that. I just got out of prison. I don't want to go back inside the prison.
And usually you have to
go
wait.
back in.
Yeah, you got to wait. Now, mind you, I still got 3 years of parole left.
Mm-hmm.
I still got to, even though the sex offense got overturned, it still take a couple months for everything to really clear up. So I'm going inside the institution, and I remember going and talking to the ward, and we brought this to his attention, like he's gonna come in as volunteer, but the ministry's gonna pay. You know, we can't pay him much, but we'll pay him a little something to come in part time. And the ward said, and he actually, I ain't go through the whole story. He actually told me this same story while I was locked up. He said, "That's the best thing I've heard."
Mm-hmm.
He said, because you know what I expect, and I think these guys need to hear somebody like you come in here and make a difference.
Wow.
He called his upper people commission. Now, ain't no way in human thought that should have been approved.
Mm-mm. Not while you were on probation, or parole, especially.
So when I sat in his office and he made the decision, he called his supervisors. And he said, listen, we got a new chaplain. It's Omar Howard, which they already knew, and some officers didn't like me for whatever reason. He said he has keys. He gave me keys
to the prison.
And of course, you know, some of his supervisors come up there like, do you know he's still on parole? You know, he said, I know, but if you got anything to say, don't say nothing to him. Say something to me.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I never forget calling one of my homeboys when I walked out the building. I said, man, you can't believe these folks just gave me keys to a prison, bro. And he just busted out. He said, man, how you don't treat them for them keys, man? I said, man, I didn't even make a decision to do this. So the story I'm telling y'all is, I went from being locked up in the Department of Corrections, paroling out the Atlanta Transition Center. In less than 2 years, with less than 3 years, I became the chaplain of the same place I paroled out of.
Wow.
Unheard of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Fast
Change mindset.
Changing my
They
Yes.
saw it in you. It was real.
Fast forward 2 years after that, I started my own nonprofit called Freedom is a Choice, which y'all can see, right? You see Freedom is a Choice, which is a mentoring program geared toward encouraging our youth to choose freedom over incarceration. So I started mentoring youth. They had me speaking. I'm speaking all over the place. I'm still speaking in schools and with different organizations. And this is going weird. I'm super excited. 2016, I started writing on my book called Omar Haward Story. Started writing on that. I got on the Yana Van Zant show. 2018, the state of Georgia granted me a full pardon. The state of Georgia. I just told you I was locked up for murder and armed robbery. They tried to murder on a manslaughter, so I still had 11 or 12 felons. The state of Georgia granted me a pardon.
Nice.
What does that mean? Tell people what that means.
At the time now, well, let me share that there's a misconception with these pardons.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon is great to have. Get it by all means. Now I can't speak for other states because other state policies are a little bit different. State of Georgia at the time, pardon means actually that you're forgiven. It didn't expunge my charges, but it's forgiven. They're now in legislating trying to make sure if you get a pardon that it's totally expunging your record. That's what's going on now. So hopefully this new year, they actually had it on the bill last year, but they ran out of time. So hopefully this year it'll go through. But I received a pardon, which of course a lot of people's crazy excited because now people are like, man, you remember the charges brother had? And he's got a pardon. Now he works Department of Corrections.
It shows the power of God.
It shows the power of God. Mind you, now I'm working here as a volunteer, right?
Right.
Still got keys to the prison. I'm over the whole. At the time, I'm at the Atlanta Transition. 2019, I get a phone call saying the commissioner of the Department of Correction wants you to put in an application. They want to hire you on full time. And so now, since 2019, I've been hired on full time with the Department of Correction. So now I'm actually
You're getting paid at the very prison you were in.
Oh yeah, I'm getting paid. Yeah. And then not only put me over that facility as a chaplain, they also put me over Clayton Transit Center as a chaplain as well. And then I go down to Alberta State Prison. I work with the juveniles, and I go inside the juvenile DJJ, work with them. And then I got phone calls, and I collaborated, signed contracts with the Department of Justice, and they flying me out to different federal prisons. Just got off a 12 prison tour, going to speak at federal prisons. Working with DJJ, signed contract with them. We recruit more mentors to help juveniles. Of course, I told you about my book, pardon recipient. You know what I'm saying? And so the doctor part comes up. 2021, I got an honorary doctorate in humanitarianism, which is one of my favorite honors. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of awards over the last 7-8 years. I've gotten a lot of awards that I'm real proud of. But that was one of them because somebody recognized all the work that I had been doing over the years. And so that's how I got the doctor on that. I really didn't embrace it for a long time. People like, nah, man, you earned what you did.
You did.
Yeah.
Not only
congratulations.
I'm just a humble person. I'm just a servant. I just believe I'm a servant, and I try to stay in my lane. I don't try to boast about, because I know what God done for me. I know if God would lift his hand off me, I would never be in the place that I am now. So,
well, you did more than earn it, Omar, because you didn't just earn it and keep it to yourself. You were sharing this stuff with others.
Yes.
So that was your gift. That is God's way of saying, I approve.
I approve.
And I would also like to say, it's not boasting. What God's been telling me these last couple of years is, and anybody who's spent time in prison, I mean, the likeliness of them reading the Bible is pretty high. And you read these stories, right? And they're amazing stories of what people went through and how God used them. Why can't we be those people too? I've been hearing a lot the last couple of years is there's New Testaments being written, and we're being called to tell our story, to rise up and tell our story and inform people and boast about it if that's what it is. It's not a boastful heart you're coming from, so I don't think it'll be received that way. But it's the new books we're writing, and these stories are going to be needed for generations moving forward. So stand tall in your truth. And I love what you're doing, and congratulations. It's a beautiful, beautiful story.
And you have earned it.
Yeah. And many times we, especially when you think about honorary doctors, and that's not what this show is about. Many times people are resistant to really claim that because they feel it was given to them and they didn't actually go to school. They didn't actually put in the time. But I'm going to say you did go to school. You just didn't go to a traditional school. You went through the proverbial school of hard knocks. And I don't even know if you fully recognize this, but I was listening and I went through I followed your story. I followed your timeline. And in 1993, you were sentenced to 18 years. 18 years would have put you right at 2021. You didn't serve 18 years. but you made a lot of strides in those 18 years.
Mhm.
See, the world locked you up for 18 years, but God had a different plan.
Exactly.
The world wanted to make you a felon for 18 years, but God made you fabulous. In that same amount of time that you could have just been wasting away in prison, you got charges dropped. In that same amount of time, you started a nonprofit. In that same amount of time, you got hired as a chaplain on a volunteer basis, then hired as a chaplain on a professional basis. In that same amount of time, you started a nonprofit. In that same amount of time, you got a full pardon. In that same 18 years that man was trying to lock you up, God was building you up. God was raising you up, and he elevated you finally with that designation of doctor.
Yeah.
Not because you went to school and got a degree, but because you were giving each and every moment of that 18 years that you could have been like others that just decided to count the time instead of making the time count. So
a lot of people sleep their time away.
a lot of them.
All they do.
It's understandable. It's understandable because of what you have to deal with in that.
Yes.
There's days I
Chose
woke
not to.
Yeah, or not do. There's days I woke up on the side of that bed and I didn't know if I was like, I didn't know where I was at.
Mhm.
You have to kind of like shake it off and like, okay, let me get it right, because there's something I'm fighting for. I was fighting to get home to my son. I was fighting to get there. I was fighting to get home to make sure I want to see my mom living, because my mom was going through some health issues. And I'm grateful that my mom is still living today, and I'm going on 15 years of being out. So I'm excited about that. Some other families that was important to me are not here, but I strive to, I would tell people, my grandma, I appreciate what my grandmother reported to me, because she had the same type of kindred spirit she served the community. I know she would be happy today.
Oh, yes.
Super happy.
When I talked to you 2 years ago, you told me that your mother had been praying that somebody would come into office to change that law.
Oh, without doubt.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, every mother's going to pray for their child, because she didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to do anything when it came to the court system. I'm grateful that she prayed, and I'm grateful that she's still here.
Oh, yes.
So when I'm out here speaking, I'm always telling guys, like, me and my mother still clash,
You probably always will.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, right? But I love my mom, because I was just thinking about this other day, like, when I got set free, I didn't have a entourage of people at the door. My mom was at the door.
Yes.
I didn't have an entourage of people, and I was well known. They came down that road. My mom came down that road. I didn't have an entourage of people to make sure I had a relationship with my boys. My mom made sure I had a relationship with boys, right? So I'm grateful that she's still here today and she's seen the change. For my birthday just passed November 8th, and that's what I posted up. Like, I am so happy that my mother is still here to see the change.
Yes.
That means a lot.
I'm sure she is very proud of you.
Oh, without a doubt. You can't be around her. She's gonna talk about me all day. Like, you can't be around her. But I want to share, like, with the larger population about having hope even in a dark place. Even though I lost my grandmother, who was she was an anchor in my life. You honor people and you honor your family, you honor yourself by changing and to do something that's going to impact your life, your family, your community, your surroundings. Because I had to impact the people inside the institute before I ever impacted anybody outside the institute.
That's right. And it is possible to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes God sends you to the certain prison that is the worst reputation because there's somebody there that you're supposed to meet.
Listen, there was no reason. I mean, there was every reason for me to have a bad experience in that prison.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
God's statistics would have proved that.
Statistics would have proved it.
Yes.
Right? And so I didn't have really a bad time in prison. The only thing bad about prison is that I was in prison, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I impacted a lot of young brothers' lives. And I thank God for putting position in me. One of my friends used to call me, he said, boy, you're a voice of reason, because we be wanting to get in something, you be trying to stop us. Like, we need to be focused on going home, man. We need to be doing, let's try to do the most easiest time that we can do so we can get out of here. I don't know when we're going to get out of here, but we need to be trying to get out whenever we can get out. And God just spoke to me. And I remember a pastor telling me, I remember, like, I can't wait to get out to do this. He said, the biggest missionary field is right here. Start working right here. So I always teach guys that don't start here. Start here.
Yeah.
But I want to share.
You said that I wanted to go into missions, and my husband said I don't want to do missions. And I tell people sometimes you have to be careful what you pray for, because I was able to do missions in prison.
Well, I think the pandemic pushed everybody to missionary field.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It leveled all
the playing field. Yeah.
It leveled prison, period. I mean, churches, period. There was no mega churches through the pandemic. Everybody was on the same playing field. So it was going to test your faith to see what you are. So when we went through the pandemic, I said to myself, I never understood what missionaries went through until this time. Now, we still ain't went through what some missionaries go through for real. So, but I want to share something to y'all. Like I told you, I'm a motivation speaker, whatever. So when y'all read my book, right before I finished my book, I looked up my name, Omar. Omar means long lived, eloquent, and gifted speaker.
Wow.
I'll never forgetting, I read it January 1st, 12:03. Fireworks are going off. Thank God for doing it that way, because it really hit my heart. And I think it was 2016 or 2016. And when I read that, I couldn't stop crying, for one thing. And I said, God, regardless of what I went through in my life, you already had a plan for me. You already had a plan. I didn't want to be no speaker. I didn't want to come back in no prison. I wanted to get out and enjoy my life and do something with my life. I didn't want to do none of that. But this was already predestined for me to go through what I'm going through. And I've dealt with every situation when it comes to being locked up. From, I had to go through sex offense so I wouldn't be biased. Now I understand how to deal with people, right? I was an armed robber. I did murder, right? Had kidnapped. I've had to understand every aspect of it. So I can come in and function and look at people as human beings, and that there is hope for anybody, Now, do some people deserve to be locked up? By all means, we know that.
Some that never need to come out.
Yeah, but I can't be a Christian and believe what I believe and not give people a fair shot, because God gave me.
Amen. Yes.
Now, your fair shot may be that you have to do time.
Which, as a Christian, you have to accept that.
I accept that.
Right.
For some of the choices you made. But you can change here. Right? So I couldn't be like, oh, man, my partners always tell about certain people that's around us that get locked up. Oh, we know how you think, but I don't care. He can be locked up the rest of his life. I don't care. Right? So I had to look at stuff a lot different. But I also want to share, if you read my book, Governor Deal did my forward on, since you last talked to me. Governor Deal did a forward for me on the back of it.
Wow.
He approved
Amazing.
of the story. And he read the book and was like, I don't even read books people give me. He said, for some reason, this right before he went out, he said, I read your book and I couldn't put it down. Wow. And he sent an email, and he wrote a forward for it before he exited out. And I'm going to read it to y'all, because he said the best person for the story is someone who actually lived the story, such as the case with Omar Haward. His journey through the criminal justice system is one that too many other young men are taking. Every policymaker should read this book. Wow. So I'm excited that even from his perspective, he's seeing the importance of listening to the testimony, not just mine, but listening to people who's going through the actual problem. And maybe we can build a better, reentry format or platform, because he's showing you some elements of what, because you read the book, you're seeing about all the struggles that I went through, and people don't even know that's just that's just icing on the cake compared to what people really have to deal with every day. But I'm grateful.
Struggle.
I'm in a place to be able to help.
There's a reason why our recidivism rate is so high. It's not just because they're committing crimes. It's because they don't get given a chance to live their life.
Yeah, it's all type of. There's so many things that we can talk about. I'm actually back in school now. I go to Morehouse School of College for their Justice Involved Life Coach class that they just started this year. So I've been back to college twice. Let people know that.
On that.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I want to encourage anybody to get on Morehouse School of College. You know, if y'all are interested in prison reform or just they're getting away from ex-felon and returning citizens, so they're saying justice involved. So, you know, the terminology is changing. But I would encourage anybody to take up that life coach certification class. I think it'd be good and beneficial for anybody. And if you're in the state of Georgia, I don't know about other states, but if you're in any other state, apply for your pardon. All they can do is say no.
That's right. Not in any worse shape than you were.
Hey, all they can do is say no. You don't get no trouble for it. State of Georgia, you know, I've seen a lot of my brothers have followed my footsteps and got a pardon. And so I'm grateful. And like I said, I got a lot of charges. So I don't even supposed to have a pardon to some people. Yeah, I shouldn't even have a pardon because I got so many charges. There's still people that don't like me being in the position I am. You know, so I'm just grateful that, you know, for the commissioner of the Department of Corrections, to the governor, former governor, U.S. Attorney's Office for believing in me, the Fulton County Sheriff, the Cab Sheriff, and all these folks who've seen a change in me, and not only me, but other people like me. There's a lot of us who are doing great work in the community. I mean, I can give you name after name.
Oh, yeah.
Doing work from Art Powell to Travis Barber to Carver's Well, Lil Don't. You know, he used to be a former gangster rapper with Lil Boosie. He's a minister now. He's doing a lot of prison reform. Elijah Ruffin. Like, I could just go line down line and just tell you a bundle of people who have turned their life. Jennifer Rogers doing a great job. Tara Gazoo. I can just go on and on of people who are doing great, who don't get the spotlight. But we need to know that there's people out here who came out.
It's real change.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Yes, it happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's is what I was going to ask you. Now that you told us your whole story, now that you gave us a glimpse into what life was like for you and what life is like to you, there's someone who is involved in the justice system right now, some different levels of it, that doesn't have that mindset yet that they can move from felon to fabulous. And maybe they haven't even had to deal with the extreme that you had to deal with, but they still can't deal with it. They still don't know what to do next. What do you say to that person about their ability, just like your ability, to move from felon to fabulous, that can encourage them right now?
If I had to talk to anybody who's incarcerated now, and I want you to hear my voice. There's a place in your life first that you have to find that's probably dark or lost or you never knew about it. And that's first learning to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you look in the mirror, I tell guys this every day in classes, when you look in the mirror, are you satisfied with the person that you see in that mirror? And you have to be honest with yourself. If you're not at a place where that you feel good about who you are, it doesn't matter if you're in prison or out of prison, because there's a lot of people out of prison who are just incarcerated as you are in prison. But you have to look in a place in your life when you look in that mirror, are you satisfied with the person that you are? And I promise you, 9 out of 10 people are not. When you see that person, you got to first learn to love that person first. And when you begin to love that person, then you'll start valuing that person's life. And that's you. I had to learn to value me first. When I value me, I begin to see other people as valuable. So it began to change my mindset. Like, I don't want to rob no more. I don't want to sell drugs. I don't want to stab nobody. I don't want to bust nobody's head. I don't want to do that no more. I want to see people live. I want to see people enjoy life. I want to see people prosper. There's a scripture that I always talk about that I think is good for this point in life and forever. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You got to begin to renew your mind. You have to involve yourself in things that's going to help you recondition your way of thinking and looking at things different. Even in prison, I had to separate myself from people that was no good for me. I had to separate myself from people that was bad for me, that didn't have my best interests at heart. These are some of the elements that you pour into your life, that when you stir up the soup of your life, what elements or grease that you're putting in there. You got to love yourself, right? You got to see yourself at a better place in life. And another thing is, I wanted people to see the best version of me, right? When I want people to know that what I've done back then, I've said it on many stations. What I've done at 18 doesn't reflect who I am now, because I'm a different person now. I know I'm a different person.
Yes.
Value that. Value who you are, love who you are. The number one ingredient in my life is that I gave God a chance. Now, I don't know what everybody's personal belief is. I gave God a chance because I didn't know how to get through this. I knew it was going to take somebody greater than me to change Omar. Same thing I'm encouraging you. Give God a chance. Now, I'm telling you what worked for me. I can't tell you what worked for everybody else because I don't know what worked for everybody. I got saved. I gave my life to Christ. And I'm going to tell you this, and I tell everybody this all the time. If God is blessing you when you're not even doing half right, imagine when you start doing right. He's already blessing you.
Right.
You ain't even got it together. And I tell guys this all the time as well, ladies too. You think God didn't put in an equation that you was going to mess up?
He sure did.
No.
He knew it before we knew it.
He already calculated that, you're going to mess up. So give yourself a chance to win. You have to have a winning mentality. I don't care where you at in life. You have to have a winning mentality. Like you sitting in prison, you can still win in prison. I know guys who have created businesses in prison.
Yes.
Guys who became artists in prison, right? Who perfected who they were in prison, right? So I want to share that with y'all. Like, find you, right? Find a place in your life. Find that peace in your life. Because some of us have allowed ourselves to be in this dark place, in this sunken place, and we got to get out of it. I remember saying to the pastor one time, man, I'm just in a hole. I got to get out of this hole. And he gave me some simple words. He said, stop digging.
Yeah.
So I'm going to encourage y'all fellas, stop digging in the holes and get out of it. Stop digging, those trenches in your life that's going to dig a hole deeper. You can find you in prison. If you have ever read the Bible, you can read throughout the Bible. There's a lot of people that was in prison. And God elevated. One of my favorite stories is Joseph. Everyone want to read the story of Joseph. I seen my life in Joseph.
That's what I was seeing also when you were speaking. Yeah.
I've been there. There's no way the reason why that's in our old times, a convicted felon shouldn't have had keys to no prison.
No.
Convicted felons shouldn't have had a job with the Department of Correction. I don't think nobody in the world, I think I'm the only person that have been hired back home in the short amount of time that I've been out back inside the Department of Correction.
Yeah.
As an employee.
Your story is absolutely beautiful. And I know it was a long road to get there, but look at the lives that you are touching now. Look at the lives that you touched while you were incarcerated. And now look at the relationships that you have. If you would have stayed on the same path and not went to prison, you never got busted, I don't think you would have had as good a life now that you got. Or you might have been dead.
Probably been dead because there's a lot of friends of mine around me was dying from what we were doing.
Right.
I'd have been out of my mind. I'm grateful today that I can see people as human beings and love them in spite of. Let me tell you another part of my story that I really want to share. I prayed for 3 things to happen in my life that I wanted to see. I wanted to find my father. I wanted to find my cousin who was missing for 30-something years. And I wanted to talk to the victim of the family. I got out of prison. And the first thing that happened was I met the victim of the family. And me and the mother of the victim became almost like, she treated me like I was her son.
Wow.
Her telling me,
yes,
she just died this past December. And when I tell you this lady loved the ground that I walked on, she said, in the courtroom, she said, God spoke to me and told me you didn't do that crime. And I remember she said, I told my family that. And for years, I was tormented in prison because I said somebody hate me for something I didn't even do.
Right.
Got to meet that. I prayed about that. I was praying this about almost my whole sentence. I met the parent, the mother of the victim of the family. The second thing happened. I found my father. Now, we didn't have no information on my dad. My mom had no information at all. And I found my dad. I got a chance to meet my dad and found out I got 2 brothers. Right shortly after I found my dad, I found my cousin who was missing for 39 years.
Wow.
We had no information about her, nothing. because I said, God, I want to meet her. I want to find her before her mother passed. Her mother passed like three months after we found her, but she had just had a stroke, so she really couldn't move or talk. So I'm just showing you 3 things that happened, and I was adamant about what I prayed for, and that's what I want to encourage everybody. That's what I tell guys all the time, whether you're in prison, out of prison, speak life into your life. Don't speak doubt. This person probably didn't go home for this reason. This person didn't go get out of prison for this reason. This person get a reason. Y'all may have said that's not your life. You speak over your life every day. You believe that you're going to get out. You believe that you're going to be a great person. You believe that great things are going to happen in your life. You have to believe that, and not only believe it. Paul even said, "I'm going to show you my faith by my word." So you have to create your life as you're believing. Like, go to school, get you a trade, take up classes, take up groups. Do whatever it takes, man, to make you a better person because you believe in what you believe. Like, I have to do that every day. I have to do that out here. Like, I have to believe every day because I don't have nothing else to stand on. I have to believe what I believe. So I want to encourage you, if anybody's incarcerated, listen to it. Look in that mirror and start loving the person you see in that mirror. I don't care what you've been through. You probably had no father. You probably didn't have a mother. You probably was, if you was molested or you was, you've been through domestic violence, that don't mean you can't come out of that. You can come out of that situation the best person that a person's ever seen in their life. You can have a greater life, whether you're inside or outside. You can have a better life, but you got to find that person in that mirror. You got to love that person, and you got to value that person. All right. I just want to share that to those who may be incarcerated, and I wish some of our juveniles can hear this, and I hope I can share this with juveniles. And I just want to say, because I'm so sensitive about when it comes to our young adults. Value your life, young people. Value your life. We are losing way too many of our young adults to prison and to the graveyards.
Yes.
Parents, stay in your kids' business. Love on them. Pray for them. Hug them. One of the things I find that we don't do enough is really show organic, genuine love.
Mm-hmm. I tell people that all the time, that I thought I knew what love was, but until I actually felt locked away in a prison cell, that love of Christ, there is no comparison. So when I came out, I wasn't a hugger. When I came out, I hug everybody.
I want to share something about love. I knew Christ loved me. I didn't understand love till my grandson was born.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
I didn't know what love was, and to the first day I held him, and I was like, God, because the life looks good, but sometimes you're still tormented because a lot. And I want to encourage anybody getting out of prison or juvenile, or whatever, get some therapy, get some counseling.
Yes.
Because you're still dealing with a lot of things psychologically.
Yes, and that can be in the form of a counselor or a coach or a friend, your family, somebody. Talk through it, because you need that. When you come out of prison, your mind is fragile.
Yes, yes,
fragile.
Get some help. You know what I'm saying? I thought because I was saved, boy, I'm good. I don't need no help.
Yeah. And that's one of those misnomers that all you got to do is get saved and then everything's going to be fine. But then you have to recognize that part of that is recognizing that the part that's actually saving you is the other people that he has placed in your life to help you rebuild. You're not just re-entering society, you're re-entering a new space in time in your mind, and you got to build that back up, just like you got to build everything else back up in your life. And I appreciate your story. Your story was so good. The internet was blowing up and it knocked me out, but I came back in and just in time to definitely hear those words of wisdom. What I want to do is, because we could talk to you forever. That story is powerful, and we're definitely going to bring you back and have more layers in it and really talk about it from your book standpoint. But tell them, we know you can. The Omar Haward story is on Amazon.com. Tell them a little bit more about your nonprofit and how they can get in contact with you.
Okay, definitely. I would love for you to. Actually, it's freedomschoice.org now. We changed the net, so we just rebooted that. So if you can change that .org, it's freedomschoice.org. You can reach me at 404-480-3235 or email me freedomischoice 2012 at gmail.com. So I mentor young adults, not for the fact that just because they was people that have been incarcerated. We got kids here all the time that don't have strong father figures or strong mother figures, or mothers or fathers. It's amazing lately. I've been having a lot of fathers reach out to me for help. So because we have to get that village mentality back in play, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not by myself. I got other people that I work with, but you can also, donate, to, you can go, you can reach out to me to find more information on how to donate. More important than anything, pray for me. Pray for God give me the wisdom every day to do what I need to do. Pray for the young adults that I come in contact. I have a lot of great success stories, and maybe one day y'all bring me back, I can have a couple of these young men on here who should have been in prison right now, but God bless us. The judge believed in me, gave them a second chance through my organization. One, I'm just telling you a couple. One is in college right now. He should have been in prison on small bank robberies. Didn't go. A couple of them had robbery charges. One of the kids said, I just thought you were full of game. He said, but you stuck to your word, and it made me change my life. So we know that our lives can be an impact in other people's lives because they see the consistency in what you're doing, and that you show that you genuinely care. So that's, from my perspective, freedom is a choice. I'm just trying to help every young man and young lady that I can. I also started another business called Transforming Lives Coaching and Consulting, where we're going to be, doing life coaching classes. We're going to be anger management, grief counseling. And like I said, I'm going to school right now for a life coach in justice involved or prison reform and reentry, whichever terminology you want to use. So reach out. You can text me. If you want a book signed, reach out to me and I'll sign a book and send it to you. If you need to book me for a speaking engagement, you can reach out to me through my email, or you can call me personally. We can have a conversation about that. So right now, I'm just grateful for having the opportunity I'm having. You can look me up on my Facebook page. You can look Omar Howard, Life Coach Omar on Instagram, Twitter, Howard_Omar. I'm in LinkedIn, Omar. You see some of the stories, some of the news reports have been on me. They've done several news reports on me, so you can see that I walk what I talk. I put 100% into what I'm talking about. Like I am real serious about these kids. I don't play around about it, and I'm adamant about getting out and speaking and try to empower others to find their place in life and their purpose. And hopefully, something I say will help a young man, a young lady, to turn the other way.
And because you've been there, they will resonate with you.
Called credible messages.
That's right.
Look up the terminology, credible messages. Yes. I'm also part of the Credible Message Initiative. Great opportunity to be around a great group of people who are doing the exact same thing. People who used to be former gang members, former drug dealers, pimps who have totally turned their life around, doing the same thing I'm doing, running programs inside of juvenile facility, prison. So I'm just grateful. Like I said, I am grateful. Thank you for this platform, allowing me to come on.
Well, thank you for coming. And we haven't talked in 2 years, and look at how much you have overcome just in that short time from where you were even then.
Yes.
The doctorate has happened, and just some wonderful things. And we are just blessed that you've been able to share your story with us. Like Karen says, we will have you back to do an update, and just thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, so my office is getting ready to open up. So in the next couple of months, you're going to see this thing fully blossom out.
That's good.
Stepping out on faith. And
yes, we want to see that.
Yeah, I want to be more involved in the community. So I'm sitting in my office right now. So I come here every day, and I'm trying to really get this thing going, because it's a new chapter in my life that I really want to work. Because I'm 48 years old. I would tell kids, I got to raise y'all though, because by the time I'm 55, I just want to be helping get through.
But you have a passion for it, and that's needed.
Yes.
It's needed.
I'm looking for God to work. Keep me in prayer, y'all.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Omar. You truly have went from felon to fabulous, and your story it's just an amazing story.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Izzy, any closing thoughts that you have for Dr. Omar Howard?
Well, again, I just want to thank him for sharing his story and for everything you're doing for humanity, for those kids, for just everybody, and for all the people who have been counted out in life, showing up and reminding them of their worth. I totally commend that. I value that. Thank you. And I want to remind anybody and everybody listening that freedom is a choice.
Freedom
I
is
love
a choice.
it. I love it.
Freedom
And,
is a choice.
I love it. And I love that background. And what I love is this is a truly transformational story. I love the fact that, legacy leaves seeds and success leaves clues. And you went to a place that you had no idea you were going to, and no real reason why you were supposed to be there that you knew of, but you went into a place that you created a legacy. You went into a place that where you didn't have keys and they locked you up, to a place that gave you the keys to all the locks. And then you've taken it to another level where now you can go in and out freely to give back from the experiences that you had through your incarceration. And now you've replaced the keys to the prison to the keys with your own office, where you can continue to expand and be even more fabulous of what you're doing, simply because you decided way back when, instead of to just sulk and be angry and be upset, you decided that even though you were incarcerated, that freedom still was your choice. And we thank you for that. And we thank you for sharing your story. And we thank you for being one of those felons that's gone from felon to fabulous. This is Dr. Omar Howard. You can check him out. You can get a copy of his book on Amazon.com. You can check out his nonprofit, freedomisachoice.org. You can email him directly if you want to have a more intimate conversation with him, if you want to book him for speaking engagements, if you want to get a personal signed copy of the book, you can email him at freedomisachoice2012@gmail.com. And of course, you be on the lookout for more things that are coming from this fabulous man, Dr. Omar Howard. Thank you, my brother, for being on From Felon to Fabulous.
Thank you so much.
You guys stay tuned for more incredible stories of other people changing their life.
Absolutely. And hey, if you are interested in being a guest on the show, just go to www.fromfelontofabulous.com and fill out the contact form, and someone from our team will get back in contact with you to see that maybe you'll be the next person on From Felon to Fabulous.
Wasn't that a great testimony, a great story of how change is real? It's actually possible. It's a possibility. And when you really want that change, it can happen. We give you the tools, the tips, and the strategies to make that happen through From Felon to Fabulous, or at Becoming the Best You, where we give people the help they need to get to the next phase of their life. One thing I want everybody to understand and to get right in their mind is you are worthy. You have a value. You have a worth. Find it, use it, and take care of yourself with it and grab the life that you want. It's waiting for you. Thanks for watching, guys. You guys have an amazing day out there. If you want to be on either of our shows, you can either go to comechangeyourlife.com and talk to us about becoming the best you. If you have a fabulous felon story and you have went from felon to fabulous, then go on over to fromfelontofabulous.com. Check that out. leave us a message and we will be in touch.